Funding for Texas Monthly Talks is provided in part by Public Strategies Incorporated, managing campaigns for corporations around the clock, around the world, and J.P. Morgan Chase, the state's largest financial institution, serving large and small businesses, governments, schools, churches, and individual Texans just like you for more than 135 years, and the MFI Foundation, improving the quality of life within our community, and the Matson McHale Foundation, in support of public television, and also by the Alice Clayburgh Reynolds Foundation, proud to be a founding partner of Texas Monthly Talks, and by the law firm and public policy practice of Vinson & Elkins, LLP, providing legislative, regulatory, and public finance counsel for complex business challenges. Vinson & Elkins, online at velaw.com. And viewers like you, thank you.
I'm Evan Smith, the editor of Texas Monthly. If only he'd brought a one-armed man or a hissing mutant baby or Laura Dern to sit in the front row of our studio. If only he'd placed a severed ear right here on our set or breathed maniacally into an oxygen mask while we talked. If only the narrative arc of our half hour together had been incomprehensible, yet strangely compelling. Then, and only then, would I have felt at home in David Lynch's world. Of course, in a literal sense, very little could have prepared me for the experience of interviewing the four-time Academy Award-nominated director and screenwriter. This is one original individual. The 61-year-old had come to Austin to promote his newest movie and to sign copies of his just-published book on meditation. It was his first time in our fair city, and the fanboy film buffs with expensive glasses and no jobs who filled our audience one weekday afternoon in late January couldn't get enough of him, and for good reason. Rarely does a star of his magnitude come out to play. Born in Missoula, Montana, raised variously in the Pacific Northwest and Durham, North Carolina, Lynch attended art schools in Washington, D.C., Boston, and Philadelphia before making his first short film, Six Figures Getting Sick, in 1966. In the 40 years since, he has rarely put down his camera, producing a significant and distinct body of work that includes the big screen classics Eraserhead, The Elephant Man, Dune, Blue Velvet, and Mulholland Drive, and the TV series Twin Peaks. His latest feature, Inland Empire, is said to be about a girl in trouble. But if you remember who you're dealing with here, you won't be surprised to learn that Naomi Watts plays a talking rabbit. Like all of Lynch's films, this one is surreal and mind-expanding, which is also how I describe our wide-ranging conversation. See for yourself, and be sure to keep an eye on his hands. You can't make this stuff up, folks. A conversation with David Lynch on this edition of Texas Monthly Talks. Essentially do a version of that. This will be a fun night. Okay. I got the call. It's on the one. It's on PBS. Lewis. And then I stopped my show to get back to him, but it's okay. It's all right. David Lynch, welcome.
Good to see you.
Nice to have you here in Austin.
Good to see you, Evan.
How are you enjoying taking around Inland Empire? Has this been a good experience for you?
Yes. Not since Eraserhead have I met the theater goers and the theater owners, and set the levels of the sound and all this. So I've really enjoyed it.
Now, Eraserhead is almost 30 years ago, right? 78?
Yeah, 77 I finished it. I opened up in 78.
I'm guessing that theater goers and theaters are different than they were in the
No, the same thing, a magical thing. Always the same. I mean, the sound has gotten a lot better, and the picture's gotten better too, right. But the experience of a shared experience, as I always say, when the lights go down and the curtain opens, we get to go into another world, and it's very beautiful.
Well, one difference I think we can agree on is that the technology of filmmaking is different today than it was then. This film was shot digitally, right?
Right.
And it's your first film shot on digital video.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal really, but when you compare it to working in film and you go to digital, you see capital letters, freedom.
Right.
And even though film quality is so beautiful, you die the death going so slow, and it's sinking slowly into the La Brea tar pits.
So are you now in a situation where you won't go back?
I will never go back.
You're done.
Yeah, because it's too heavy and too slow, and so many times you're waiting, knowing that maybe you'll get the magic if you could go right now. You could go right now, but you can't go right now, and so it's a heartache. It's a heartache. It's a torment.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. I'm glad you're not tormented anymore.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you about this movie particularly before we go back to talk about your career and other films that have been so interesting as well. Reviewers seem to pronounce this film both brilliant and a little baffling. Do you recognize your work in their reviews?
I don't read the reviews. I hear about them.
That's probably good.
And but I understand the baffling, and I understand what was the other.
Well, brilliant. I'm sure you understand the brilliant part.
I appreciate that.
Right.
When you fall in love with an idea, then you're hooked. So I always say a story, but a story that holds abstractions. Right. And gets a thing that cinema can do, saying abstractions. So those things they're kind of like the same feeling we have when we have a powerful dream. It's very difficult to tell your friend that dream with words. Right. So that they get the same experience. It's next door to impossible. But cinema can say these things that we feel, think, as we experience, and we have intuition, and we can get a thing there that's said with the language of cinema. So beautiful. Right. And we may not be able to say those things in words, but we know far more than we give ourselves credit for, because the experience is that you go out after a film and you have some coffee, or you have some red wine, and you begin to talk, and someone says something, you say, no, that's not the way I see it, like this, and all these things come out. So we know a lot of things, and we are like detectives, and we like to feel a thing and make sense of it and find a thing, just like in life.
And so the symbolism that one film goer or another one may take from your movies, this is okay with you. You don't mind if people interpret it one way or the other.
We're all that little bit different on the surface, mm-hmm. and interpretations, when things get abstract, vary, sometimes wildly. Right. But each one is valid. Each one is valid. That's what you got.
Right. Now, you say when you have an idea, it's so wonderful to see it realized, however abstract it may be on film. Where was the idea for this film? What's its origin? Where was it born? It
was born, as they say, on a street. I'm out on a street, and I see Laura Dern walking toward me. And she says, "Oh, hello, David." And I say, "Hello, Laura." And
okay, this is getting good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she says, "I'm your new neighbor." I said, "Oh my golly, that's so fantastic." And she said, "We got to do something again sometime." And I said, "Yes, we do. Maybe I'll write something." And she said, "Really good." And then I went, and I guess just focusing on that encounter, a bunch of things started coming out. So Laura Dern started it. That meeting started it.
Right. Now, the basics of the plot are fairly conventional. Woman in trouble. Right?
A woman in trouble.
And that's been the basis for plots going back years and years.
Sure.
But it sort of spins off from there into an unconventional direction, or a series of directions.
It's a very, very conventional film.
You think so?
Yes.
Explain.
No, I won't explain.
You won't explain. Okay. All right.
There's two things. There's the story and the way the story is told.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be any good. Let's say you have a film, you could tell it, the whole thing, in 2 or 3 sentences. Somebody says, "Okay, I already saw the film.
I don't need to go see it."
Yeah. It's the way the story is told.
Well, let's just say, for the benefit of people who haven't seen it, it's not your usual woman in trouble story. How about that?
you could say that.
I just did.
Okay.
Now, I want to show a little love to the book that you have out as well, because your tour at the moment, you're taking around the film, but you're also taking around a book. You are a devotee of meditation.
Right.
And this book, Catching the Big Fish, is a book about your experience.
It's an experience of catching ideas,
right.
And the fact that meditation helps that process,
right.
And helps the process of doing anything. And people who heard this, hadn't heard this before, said, "Where has this been? I've been waiting all my life to hear something like this." Others, it goes in one ear and out the other. Always the same. But it's important that you at least know that there is this unbounded, infinite, eternal level, ocean within every human being, and that we can learn a technique and dive within and experience that. And experiencing it enlivens it, and we grow in consciousness. And this consciousness has qualities. Inner happiness comes with consciousness, bliss. Intelligence comes with it, creativity, love. And there's an ocean of it, and this ocean, though, is full, absolute vibrant consciousness, absolute bliss. Human beings have a potential, and it has names like enlightenment or fulfillment or liberation. You unfold that, and that is so beautiful. The light of unity comes, and negativity begins to recede. So it's so good for you would start enjoying the doing more, and this subtle growth of that allows you to get things that you couldn't get before. And it's what separates like a mundane recording of a certain same notes from something that holds great magic. Same notes, but how it's played. This kind of stuff grows. And life just gets better and better. Become shiny with this consciousness and get rid of this heavy, heavy load of negativity. Feeds every kind of process.
This is obviously something you know quite a bit about.
Well, I've been doing it for 33 years.
Yeah.
And I never talked about it, I just did it.
How'd you get interested in this?
Well, I heard about meditation, went in one ear and out the other. I thought it was a waste of time. Right. People sitting, doing seemingly nothing, their eyes closed. What a waste of time. I want to do stuff. I want to live the art life, and I want to get on with it. And then I heard this phrase, true happiness is not out there, true happiness lies within. And I think, well, that sounds like it might have some truth to it, but the phrase doesn't tell you where the within is, nor does it tell you how to get there.
Right.
So I started thinking about that, and one day I thought, maybe meditation is the way to go within. Oh. And so I started looking into it, and that's when my sister called, said she started Transcendental meditation. She told me about it based on what I had heard and read. It sounded real good, but the thing that sold it was a change in her voice, a happiness more.
You could tell
I could tell it. She's my sister. I hear this thing, and I say, that's what I want. Right. And so I went and got it.
Has it impacted your filmmaking?
Yes, it impacts everything. So many people don't enjoy the doing. Their eye is on the goal, either some money or some kind of thing. Right. And the doing is so much drudgery. This, you light this up from inside and you start really enjoying the doing, no matter what it is. You could have a menial job, start catching ideas, and invent new ways of doing this thing. All kinds of possibilities come out. You start getting along better. Everybody starts looking better. You start falling.
Well, that's good.
And then for women, you see a woman. She starts diving within. You meet her a year later, and you fall in love. And it's this thing coming from the inside. They say beauty is, only skin deep, but it's this stuff coming from the inside. Yeah. Money in the bank for us.